Good morning. So thank you everyone for coming. I am Mrs. Sasser. I'm an English instructor at Jacksonville State, and my student Bethany Dean-Stoots is going to be presenting her project that she completed for the Honors Book Club in the fall. And I thought the easiest way to introduce the assignment would just be to kind of read what I gave the students, which was very broad, very general, very abstract, and it was up to them to interpret it. And I think that Bethany did a wonderful job of doing that. In case you're unfamiliar with the book by Marlon James, Red Leopard, Black Wolf, it is a way for James to kind of take back the fantasy genre to one of its many roots in Africa. And so as a Jamaican author, he does have ancestral ties to Africa, and so he wanted to take a lot of these fantasy tropes that are very Eurocentric, and he wanted to resituate them in Africa. So the assignment that I asked them to do, Pinterest, Instagram, Snapchat, and other social media seem to offer a revolutionary new idea. They provide us with ways to curate information, save quotations or images, and document our thoughts. Yet, to some extent, these technologies merely function as an updated form of the commonplace book. Readers in early modern periods often produced commonplace books, i.e. notebooks, in which they recorded the best examples of wisdom and style from what they read for easy access and recall. In other words, readers would take the words from compositors, typesetters, printers, and booksellers produced as commodities and make them into a personal account. Not words to buy but words to live by. Each commonplace book, therefore, was as unique as the individual who created it. And so my simple instructions for them was to create a commonplace book entry for each of the assigned readings that we did for each class meeting. And so I'm going to let Bethany show you her work.
Hello everyone. Thank you for coming out here to listen to my speech today. So my project is Electric Echoes, and last minute I decided to change Black Leopard, Red Wolf because I want to educate on the importance of scrapbooking in the classroom. And that's how I took my commonplace book. And scrapbooking is done in any order, so I switched the title around to Black Leopard, Red Wolf to show that scrapbooking can be done in any way. So she did a beautiful job on explaining what scrapbooking is, and I just wanted to give a little more information on commonplace to start. So some quick history is that commonplace books date back to the ancient times, and they started in the Renaissance era. It allowed scholars and writers to store and organize valuable information as a reference tool. So I got from here to scrapbooking. Scrapbooking is actually a break-off from commonplace books. They started in the 15th century, and they were actually called friendship albums. The purpose was to preserve and showcase memories. So, if scholars and writers and people of today's time can use it to showcase important memories and facts, why don't we use it in the classroom? I want to create a scenario for you. Imagine you're student A, and you're studying for your final exam in book club, and you're trying to remember all the important information, but you just can't. So you try to cram read this whole book in one night, which by the way is 620 pages. It is an impossible task, and if you do succeed, you're not going to get any sleep or remember anything, and most likely will fail. Now, let's imagine student B, who did create a scrapbook. They were able to open their book, look at about 18 pages, and get a quick visual reminder of all the information, go to sleep at a reasonable time, and do well on their exam the next day. This can also be done for your history classes, English, and many other subjects. But it has other benefits. Some include it creates visual engagement, hands-on, which enhances learning and memory, allows for everything to be organized, allows students to express art uniquely, even if they are not artists, like myself, and several studies link art to improved cognitive function. I wanted to leave you with a few examples of my commonplace book. This was the first chapter entry that we did. I marked it clearly with chapters 1 through 2 and the date. I, on the left, like to keep the scenery of how I imagined in the book, which really, when I was going back that helped me get in the moment again. I put a single leopard because this is where we learn our main character is alone after his family turns out to not be his true family. The fish are because he starts his quest at a river along with the travel of a car. I put quotes that I felt were really engaging and really honed into the aspect of that chapter, and the blue flower was also important. Another layout that I did was for chapters 3 and 5. I continued with putting the chapters there along with the date, which can't be seen much, but it's on the bamboo. And this is how I imagined him in this part. He is meeting a group of children and they are hiding for their own protection. And so I imagined it would be a very clustered filled area to stay protected. I put home is where you feel loved because he finally met someone that he felt a connection with, and he's still on his quest, so I put the compass along with just more quotes that I felt were very important. And lastly was chapters 16 through 17. Instead of putting a scrapbook page there, I did mushrooms to remind myself that we're in the woods, a piece of gold tape because he was with royalty at this moment, but this time I decided to put the image on the right-hand side to show how I felt the main character was feeling at this moment. He had finally been truly alone and in his own thoughts and processing everything that he had undergone, because this whole book undergoes a lot of depression, anxiety, LGBTQ, and I felt at this moment, this is how he felt, looking out and just being a sole person in an empty land. So, with so many scholars and writers, and even our own parents creating scrapbooks for us to look back at, why not use commonplace or scrapbooks in the education field to help students better understand what they're doing? I know without this, I would have never remembered this book, but because I have a commonplace book, I can look back every now and then and remember 620 pages and 18 pages. Thank you.
Questions for our speaker?
I just have a comment.
Yes.
I think this is really interesting. I never thought about, I always used to, when I was a student, handwrite my notes so that they would somehow sink into my brain, but.
I'm a huge visual learner, so this assignment was really helpful for me. I suffer with dyslexia, and so writing is not my forte because I struggle to read, and so this is a way for people with disabilities to have a more accessible pathway to remember things without having to do the common writing down everything.
That's interesting. Thank you for talking about that.
Yes, sir.
Do you plan to do this with other books in future?
Yes, sir. I'm currently in another honors book club class. I'm doing the class on diagnosis, which goes through the process of people getting diagnosed when they have really difficult medical diagnosis. And I really enjoyed it because it's like 5 individual stories in one chapter, and I'm able to create a page for each story, which makes it easier to look back at instead of having to reread each chapter. Yes.
As you were going through this book, were there certain sections of the book that were easier for you to find visuals for, or maybe more difficult to find visuals for?
Definitely. So the first chapter was definitely the easiest because that's when you get the most descriptors of everything. And I'm a big sticker person, and so I use a lot of stickers. But there's a certain section where it's all music. And that was a harder section to describe with stickers and photos because it is a whole like song lullaby. But as a person who's a marching Southerner, I used it in an advantage and just wrote music notes all over it to help me remember that section.
All right, let's thank our speaker.
Thank you.